Grüezi miteinander, we say in Switzerland. This is our last round announcing a speaker.
Sad moment.
For this conference, yeah. I'm very happy it's finished. I do have one quick service announcement. The organization team approached me really quick. There's some minor screw up at the hotel. When you check out, there is a possibility that they will ask you to pay for one of the meals. Don't do it. You don't have to. All of the food is included. Get in touch with the team. And if you or one of your coworkers have already paid, also get in touch with the team. You'll get the money back. There's some confusion, but all of the food is paid for, so don't pay it again. And if you have, get a refund.
Exactly.
That was my service announcement.
Perfect.
My last service announcement. Woo! I really like seeing the interest. I just already said that. I really like seeing the interest that the community brings to the projects of the other agencies. I really like seeing that these talks, although we're in the small studio stage, tend to be quite full because there's curiosity around what all of the other people are doing.
Oh, absolutely. And like the rest of the conference seems to be very type safe. This one is not. Please welcome on stage here Laura, who also won an award yesterday.
She did.
Not me, but the project.
The project.
Thank you.
And you will tell us about it.
Yes.
Tell us about one of the biggest name brands in the NEOS world.
I will, I do.
Thank you.
Thank
Stage
you.
is yours.
All right. If you didn't know, we work for Cornelsen, and they have an anniversary this year. So they turn 80 years, and therefore they wanted new content. So first, the project at a glance. We have many, many products, over 60,000 products managed in NEOS. We have more than 180 page types across the platform and more than 6,000 websites in the web catalog. So it's one of the largest NEOS projects. And who is the customer? You might know Cornelsen. So the target audience is for the website teachers, parents, pupils, and also educational institutes. They have different areas. They serve, for example, the primary schools, secondary schools, vocational training, and also adult education. And this year they are turning 80. And they wanted a special experience, some content celebrating and also using it for marketing. The goal was to create something highly interactive, so something with gamification and stuff. And they planned a campaign around the metaphor of Discover Worlds, and it had to do something with the number 80. And the question was then also, should this content be hosted somewhere else, and then we just reference it or use it as an iframe or something, or use an external loaded resource, or do we find a way to serve the content and manage it directly in the NEOS backend? And the decision was actually that we will maintain this completely in the NEOS backend so that the editors have the full set they already know, that they have only one system that they need to use, and that we are fully independent and have control over it. So we've come up with a 3D polygon sphere, which you can already have a little bit of a clue at the top, which consists of 80 facets with 80 stories, and you have one immersive experience on the website. So this is like a sphere, which is modeled. We use the JavaScript framework 3.js. I don't know, who knows that? We already worked with it? Okay, some of you. Great. It's a GLB file, and we manipulate it with this JavaScript framework. It's fully accessible. So we have a mouse, a touch, and a keyboard navigation and interaction. And it's also fully editorially editable in the NEOS backend. So the first step is we have the GLB file that is like predefined because this is pre-modeled. that we load into the WebGL context. And also we optimize this due to the shaders that are used and use web-friendly file formats. For the 80 facets that we have on the sphere, we map them to the node properties. So we have 80 properties for each facets, and the editors can then reference specific pages that are then linked to the facets or pop-ups. And we also built a custom CK editor plugin to allow the editor to use the iframe, the guest frame, which is in the middle of the NEOS backend, the inline editing, and to create a connection to the property editor. How it works, editorial, we have references that we use. So we have the properties on the content element, which is the sphere, and the content is basically pages that can be then referenced on the property. And we also only allow the specific page types that we want to use for the content. We also have a solution that the marketing guys can send links with a query parameter so that a specific facet will already be selected when the user goes onto that page. And I will show you later. We have like an exploration state because the user can explore the sphere and roll it and stuff and navigate through it. And we wanted to persist that so that a user can come back because you don't click through 80 sites, maybe, and then continue the exploration. In the backend, we have different page types which are representing the stories. So we have a highlight story, medium story, and a pop-up story. It's more or less self-explaining, so highlight story is really prominent. A medium story is more or less mid-length editorial content. And a pop-up story is not even in a page, it's just a dialogue that pops up. Yes, I already said that the facets are linked to the properties in the content tree in the backend. And we also have SVG icons on that facets that the editor can also configure. So this is a short demo because then it gets clearer. Here you can see the letters. This is just in the backend. You can see the letters on the facets, which represent the story type. So for P is for pop-up story, H for highlight story, and M for medium story. And here you have all the node properties that get selected, and you can also see which story you just clicked. They are all numbered. And let's see what I do here. You see on the right side, not now, but maybe later, the referenced pages. Yes, the pop-up story, where the content can be edited. And you can also see that you can put an icon on that. So this is the backend view, how the editor can edit the content. You can also see here are like all the pop-up contents, and beneath under that there are also the other story pages that the editor can create. All right, let's have a little look on the front end or on the design, because I'm really proud of it. If you didn't see it really, these facets, like these faces on the sphere, are not like unicolored. It's a color gradient, which is also a bit randomized. We also have a brightness curve, so the bottom faces are a bit darker than the top faces. You already see at the top that we have these SVG files, so we have 2D content placed on 3D content and oriented on that, and it's also responsive, so it will adapt to the screen size. It's fully accessible, so we have a keyboard navigation. You can tap through it. You can slide it, more or less. We use semantic HTML, so if you tap through it, it's also screen reader accessible. You will get the title of the page and stuff. It's basically working like a link. And in case somebody doesn't want to use the sphere because it's maybe something uncommon, we also provided a teaser list as an alternative for the navigation. And this is what the user can see done in the front end. So you can see first it is completely reddish, and you can click through the facets, and then there are either pop-ups that open up or pages. And you can click through it, and if you clicked one story, then it gets like this gray icon, which is persisted. So even if you reload the page, you will get the same state again. And yes, that's basically how we did a very alternative and very gamificated navigation of content. And yeah, that's basically it about the project. I just found a bug in my slides. We are not platinum sponsors, we are diamond sponsors. We do afterwork sprints, we have an AS showcase. This is our commitment to the community, and yeah, I think that's basically it about the project. You can also experience it by yourself. This is the URL. Yeah, it should work on phone, it should work on your computer, and yes, that's basically it. Thank you.
And luckily for me, we were mistaken. This is not our last announcement here on stage.
You're right.
But first, do we have questions? We didn't have when I arrived
I'm refreshing. Here? We do not.
We do not.
Right.
We do not.
No questions?
Well, I actually have a very personal relationship with Cornelsen, which nobody knows. It was 3 years ago at a conference here. I live in a very, very small town in Germany. And Robert approached me and said, "Oh, do you know Lars? He works at Cornelsen, and he lives in Überlingen, same town where I live." So I have a Neos friend since then who works at Cornelsen. Funny thing, I loved your talk. I loved the sphere.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
All right.
I'm also a fan.
All right.
My personal relationship to Cornelsen is restricted to having to have used their school books when I was in school 200 years ago. All right. Thank you so much. Oh, there is a question?
Just one quick question. Did you do any performance checks afterwards? Whether there were...
Yeah, I'll give you one.
Did you do any performance checks afterwards? Like just having a look whether there were people who went through all the 80 stories?
You mean what performance?
Like just have, like after you launched it, to have a look whether there were people who just clicked through all the stories?
We have it, but I don't know the results.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
now we are welcoming on stage again, please, Sebastian Kurfürst. He is gonna tell us about Louis.
Let's introduce someone that needs no introduction. Thank you.
Hello. I would still need the slides also on this screen, so I don't have to move all the time. Thank you. So I would like to talk about highest Neos scalability with an open source package called Decoupled Content Store. Who knows about that? Yeah, I guess just very few. Exactly. So what is this? In a normal Neos instance, basically the web or your users directly call Neos CMS, right? So that's just the usual approach. And then we have some kind of caching in there, and we try to make it fast and these kind of things. And this gives us lots of flexibility, but also it's in very extreme scenarios, it is very, very demanding in terms of performance. And Lewis, actually, who knows Lewis? Any bikers in here? Oh yeah, quite some. So for the others, I didn't know Lewis before we started the project. So Lewis is Europe's biggest motorcycle accessory online shop, basically. And it sounds niche, but it's not actually. It's like, I don't know, they have like, I think 20 markets. They have shops, physical shops all over Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and they have a huge, I don't know, Versandzentrum in Hamburg. So like Amazon in small, but still with like picking and all this stuff. And I don't know how many thousands of packets they are sending every day. So it's actually quite big. And what is interesting about them is that they have a lot of different scale, because in winter usually nobody is biking, so they have just less sale. But then when temperatures get like this, then they have like their season start, and then like their usage of their website starts exploding. And it was like I think 8 years ago they approached us for wanting to use Neos from their homegrown old CMS solution and integrate that into the online shop. So that means, because of this high load, we wanted to do something different, and this is a pattern we actually tried with 1&1 beforehand. We have been 10 years ago. We have together with network team and NetLogix have worked for 1&1 to create the partner portals. So basically a reseller portal for these kind of products. And what is also interesting there is that they have these extreme load peaks, because at the beginning of the month, basically everybody wants to log into his account to understand how much provision he or she got, for instance, or they are doing campaigns where at one time, like, they are sending 500,000 emails and everybody's clicking this link leading to our portal. So that's like the extreme spikes we had. And what we tried back then and improved continuously and also rewritten and open sourced over time is actually this idea of decoupling the Neos system with the external world, in the sense that Neos is not publicly facing anymore, but Neos creates an artifact which we call a content release. So that's like a prepackaged content snippets. So it's basically rendered HTML pages for the website. And we push that to what we call the content store, which is a Redis instance. And there it's available for fast serving. And then from the other side, we have a layer which we call delivery layer, for which pulls this stuff out of the content store. And in Louis' case, for instance, this part is PHP, and here is a big, I don't know, Spryker shop or something like that, so a really big shop system, and basically there's some custom integration which pulls in the content at their pages, basically. So this is how it's like connected together. And for 1&1, this layer is actually Java code, because that was their policy back then, that like public-facing stuff has to be written in Java. But actually this layer is very thin, because it just needs to look up a page by URL from the content store, so from Redis, and then it basically dumps out the HTML. Yeah, so basic concept, all fine. Then, so what does that mean? It means all content is pre-generated. So that means it gives a lot of confidence. So that means if something breaks, it breaks during the rendering process, and this is before something hits the public website in any sense. So it's basically meaning we cannot package this content release fully. It will just break along the way, and then we have an error, we can fix things, and nobody will notice from the outside world. It also means Neos is not publicly reachable, which means we can drastically limit the attack surface to a system. We can increase scalability a lot. Yeah. The scalability is, who is using Redis, by the way? Yeah. And for caching, for something else than caching? Okay, so actually that's something I would encourage you to look at, because Redis is actually really, really powerful if you have some kind of like a gigabyte or 2 gigabytes of data and want to make this accessible extremely fast. And the core of Redis is basically just storing data in RAM, but you can also put, it has all kinds of data structures you can use for tracking, for counting things, for measuring sizes of sets, and lots of other things. So, and actually it's scriptable, it has some kind of transactions, so you have quite some security you can build with it. So it's way more than just the classical key value store. And the good thing is that Redis also has a way to replicate, for instance. So that means you can have multiple Redis systems replicating content or replicating their data along each other. And this is, for instance, what we also used in the beginning to synchronize data from the on-site data center where Neos was to the cloud where actually the delivery layer was. So basically shipping the content from the customer or from the editor to the customer. But it also has some drawbacks because it means changes take some time, right? I mean, it's not just like we are used to, we click publish and all is online, because we need basically some kind of pipeline which renders stuff. And I'll show you that in a second, how this looks like. In terms of packages, we have gone through some iterations. So the first versions we used in the first version at 1.1 was not public. It was basically just that was the first version. I think like 7 years ago or something. We rewrote it for more web with the experience we had back then from the first releases, and we decided to make it public by then. And actually, this is 2 packages. The lower one is called P-Runner. It's short for Pipeline Runner. Does anybody know that? Okay. And the other one is Decoupled Content Store. I'll first focus on P-Runner, and then I'll go to Decoupled Content Store. And that's open source packages, both on GitHub, pretty well maintained, have a good README, and so on. So P-Runner is a pipeline runner. It's basically, it consists of basically 2 parts, 3 parts. One is a binary which runs permanently, and which, this is the first one, which you just start in the background and which just works through your jobs if you have them. So it's pretty much like a GitLab pipeline, you could say, but just for anything else than just jobs, just GitLab or code. Then we have a small UI, okay? And Flowpack P-Runner is actually the wrapper package to pull all this into the PHP ecosystem, and it's actually pretty nice. So you just install P-Runner, Flowpack P-Runner via Composer, and it will automatically download the correct P-Runner Go pre-built version into the package, and it will just work for you. So it's actually a pretty smooth experience to use that. You will not usually notice that there is a binary, except that you need to start it in your process supervisor. And what you can build there is you can define pipelines in YAML. So it's like a directed acyclic graph. So you can say, okay, first do this, then do this, then do this, and so on. And you can branch off. You can also wait until the steps before are done, and so on. So this is roughly the pipeline we are using in the Decoupled Content Store package. I'll just explain it, what this means. What we do, we want a high confidence that everything is working. So that means in the first step, we enumerate all documents. So we just make a list of all the documents in the system which we want to render. Then we have something like the rendering, which is a few more steps, which I'll show in a bit. What this actually does, it tries to check if the documents are complete in the Neos content cache, and if so, it just takes the documents from the content cache, and if not, it just it triggers a rendering in the background. So then we have everything rendered. Then comes the validation phase. What this does is basically read content out again. Using the APIs, it can check, or we usually check, is the start page still there, for instance, or how many pages changed from, like, if we before had 1,000 pages and now we have 500, there's probably a problem, right? I mean, then somebody has just removed half of the content. That should probably not go live. And we have quite some checks in there for now. Then comes the transfer phase. That's basically taking this content release, these set of Redis keys, and move them wherever they are needed into any other Redis system. And finally, there's the switch phase, and this is just a single, it's like a pointer switch in Redis, basically saying, not this content release is live anymore, but now this one. So, and this is how the content goes live. Yeah, this pre-runner has some pretty nice features. It can run arbitrary CLI scripts, so we usually use flow commands there, but you could also use any other commands you would like. It has variables, so you can also configure other environment stuff there. You can limit concurrency, which is important for the content release. So you can say there should be only one running at a time, so they don't overrun each other or stuff like that. There is something like called a waitlist. So that means if one content release is running and our editors still continue to work on things, it might be useful we basically know that after the release has finished, we have to do another release so that the new content goes online, basically, what the people have been working on. And that's the waitlist. And it can also do something like debouncing, like, okay, if two editors trigger a release within, let's say, 1 minute, then just one release is started, for instance. And there's something like error notifications, so you can run a script like a curl command, which posts a Slack message if something goes wrong, or these kind of things. So it's just very tailored towards running pipelines. Yeah, and it's it's really stable. And then we have this other package on top, the decoupled content store. And if you install that, then you get a new backend module, which looks like this. It's basically showing the content store releases. So every line is one release. The identifier is the timestamp when it started. You see this one is active right now. And you see currently we have about 4 gigabytes of data in here. We have a few environments, so where we are publishing content through. And then you get some stats here, basically some overview stats. And if you click one single content release, then you see the full pipeline in full detail. And so we talked about prepare and enumeration already. Rendering, actually, you see that the rendering is parallel. So there are currently for Lewis, we use 20 render workers in parallel, which render all the pages. And you already see here some numbers. So we have currently about 35,000 documents which need to be rendered in Neos. And the whole process currently takes about 40 minutes right now. If we start from scratch, if the content release is empty, if the caches are empty, then it takes like 40 minutes to flush out to build everything up, which we try to push further down. So we currently working on adding performance measurements into the system so that we can also more efficiently diagnose what we need to tune to push this number down. And it's basically, we are always fighting against this number. So when we started, I think we had like 10,000 enumerated pages, and then Louis started to create like 20 other dimensions or something like that. And this, of course, increases the number of documents we have tremendously. Yeah, and what you also see in here, you probably can't read this, but here are also steps like Lewis snippets, or here these ones with Lewis prefixed. So you can actually customize that and add your own steps to this rendering process. So the decoupled content store ships a standard pipeline template file, but you copy this into your project and you adjust it to your needs. So this means, for instance, for Lewis, we have extra APIs. There's some kind of stores API where you can get an information which stores exist and their address and these kind of things, but in a structured way, so not just as an HTML dump. And these things are rendered in these extra steps then put into JSON and so on. Right. So that means the pipeline is extensible, as already said. So this means these green parts are Lewis specific now. So stores we already talked about. Snippets is something like reusable elements they can also reference in Spryker, so in their shop system. So there's stuff like the footer and stuff like, I don't know if you buy a motorcycle helmet, there's some kind of Helmberater, it is called. So that's also content from Neos, which is placed on certain pages in the shop. And these are all snippets we are rendering. The parallel rendering is actually, I already touched it briefly, so we have this orchestrator. That's basically the one which checks, is everything there? What do we need? So and then it adds things to the pipeline. so that the render workers can pick things up. And this all is integrated with the Neos content cache, so that actually content is not re-rendered too much, and it relies on the fact that you set up your content cache markers well, so then this way you can basically control how much gets re-rendered if something gets changed. And this way we get a really, really consistent state of all the documents, all links work, all pages are updated, which needed, and so on. But of course, this needs a bit of tuning. Yeah, the validation phase already is pretty extensible. So the standard ones are some like, does the document count match with the expectations? Did the document count go down a lot? This is already set. If some documents are missing, are they really deleted, for instance? That's also an interesting check. So are they really missing from the database? And then we have some custom ones like, as said, does the homepage exist? And can I actually read all the data via the custom PHP API layer? Right now, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, no, half a year ago, we did a big major release, version 2. And there we added the system that you can actually create new rendering formats. Before it was all tied to Fusion. And but now there's also an app which needs some JSON content from us. So we created a way that you can also do PHP-based rendering, so to speak, PHP-based data output into your system. So it's extensible into multiple data channels, so to speak. All right. Just some numbers for Louis so that you get a scale. So we have about 1,000 to 3,000 documents in Neos per dimension. That's not really the problem, as you see. So it's not really, really huge by that matter. But we have 28 dimensions. And that is a lot. So we have, for instance, we have German for Germany, German for Austria, German for Switzerland, business German, which is like for business customers, some special way, and so on. And this just adds up a lot. And this makes it 36,000 documents in the content store. And all the content is zipped, but still it ends up with 320 megabytes of content per content release. So that is all text, so zip text. So you can imagine it's actually quite a lot of text if you unpack that. Yeah, the minimal release takes 11 minutes, but from these 11 minutes, currently it's about 7 minutes spent in the validation phase. So that's the next thing we're also going to optimize probably to get this number down. So it's really about, we really try to push this number down regularly. So working against the Louis growth basically. And the full release takes about 45 minutes right now, which is still okay for this amount of content and so on. And as already said, currently we have 20 parallel render workers which are started, but which all run on the same machine. It's just it's a virtual server from AWS, but it would be actually better if it would be more hardware close and it wouldn't be AWS. Okay, yeah, next steps. We will, I think, end of this year, we will work on the Neos 9 version because we are planning to upgrade Louis to Neos 9. This has not been done for project planning reasons basically so far. But we have done quite a lot of Neos 9 updates for smaller projects and medium-sized projects by now. So we are starting to get to the really big customers in the next steps like Louis. And also we will change then decoupled content store to Neos 9 as a new version as well. As said, we will work on performance measurement integrated into it, so probably with Plumber, so that you can directly measure traces from production and see how long certain things take, how database queries, how many database queries are done, and so on, so that we get a better feeling what you can actually optimize. Yeah, and the important shift is actually in thinking that you have to pre-produce everything basically, right? So it's basically you cannot just have a contact form basically, because Neos is never reachable. You can put out your content form, but you need another way to get the data back in. So that is the change of thinking you need to have. So it's certainly a way which it has its trade-offs in both sides, but if going this pattern, you get extreme stability and extreme performance, and this is very, very valuable, and the customers are really happy with this solution. So, thank you. Yeah, and as said, it's all on Flowpack, so all the stuff is open source on GitHub. Yeah.
Don't go anywhere, because while the app currently doesn't have any questions, I do. How do you do it?
What?
All of it.
Well, I mean, this was like 10 years ago or something, so it's like, I mean, it's like piece by piece. So.
But you're still very involved, obviously, in the tech side of Sandstorm, and then you do the conference things, and you have a family. Like, what do you sacrifice? Sleep?
No, I have a good team, actually.
An awarded team.
And they are doing a good job. So, I mean, I'm sometimes feeling a bit bad because, like, Marika is doing all the hard conference organizing work, and I'm just doing some decisions or whatever, and they're giving my sense to the topics. I don't know. So,
Your mustard.
My mustard, yes. So, yeah.
I think it only feels like that. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to refresh if maybe a question. Nope, no questions.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.